Hello and welcome to my video. Just making this to demonstrate my logistics circuit belt network. It's the same function as logistics bots, but it's entirely based on belts. I'm playing with Angel's Bobs, so you've got all the insane amount of items. You've got all the what have you got? You've got refining. You've got your ore crushing, sorting. You've got your ingots and smelting, and you've got your plates. It's just an insane amount of items. So when I first tried to play without logistics bots, I was just not really able to handle all the items neatly. And so I came up with this, not this particular design, but an early example of this. It had some problems, and this is probably like the fourth time I've had to revise it and basically fix a bunch of problems. And this one is just working really nicely, so I've got around to finally making a video. I've been having this design in my games for the past year or so, but I've never really finished or gotten to a state where I was happy with making a video. So here it is. So I will demonstrate it in action if you're still watching. I have this warehouse, this node, configured to hold plates, circuits, basically general stuff. If I need items to make some factories, assembly machines or whatever, I come to this node. So I'll just dump my inventory. Now circuits, I'll do circuits. Just real quick, if I go back to the stockpile, this node wants 1000 basic, 2000 of the other circuits, and 2000 electronics. So now if I pull these items out of the chest, out of the warehouse, it will now send out a signal to request those items. Now I can get that signal on these big electric poles. Now it uses a single red wire between the two connections, so it is both of these nodes, their requests. So you can't tell which one's actually coming from this one and not the other one. But it's pretty obvious that since I just pulled circuits, that request for 1900 is being sent out by this node. And so if I keep going back to my circuit production area, I will find the circuits being dumped on the belts. And as you can see here, it's just the belt is chock-a-block full of all different circuit types, completely compressed, full of all the different types of circuits. And what you'll notice in a minute is the items coming back this direction are actually the materials required to make those circuits. So it's kind of cool seeing that in effect. You start pulling circuits and then it just chains off this production, and the system just handles it really nicely. And so my production of circuits is pretty slow. It just slowly dribbles into this warehouse, and this warehouse is configured to buffer about 1000, I think. What have I got? 400, so not much. And that's probably why it was able to do this fully compressed bit when we first saw that, but now it's just dribbling in slowly. And so that'll just keep going until this has 2000 of those bonds, of those circuits, and 1000 basics. There's no limitation on the types of items on here. You can just go crazy. Any mod, it'll handle it, just as a logistics robot really. As you can see here, I've wanted a lot of different items, and I just added another constant combinator. Now I'll do an example with plates. Now plates are made quite a distance away. They're basically this bottom layer here. All my smelting is done here. So when I pull off all the plates, let's do bronze, aluminium, brass, tungsten, titanium, yada, steel. you'll end up finding the, take some gold. So we'll follow this belt, and as you can see there's items just flying through. All these plates, all this crazy amount of different items, multicolored mess. You can see here I sort of misaligned some bit. Basically my old area, I started off here in this main bus and I slowly expanded, and then I did this bit here to handle all the different plates, but I didn't align it too nicely, so there's a horrible section. I didn't bother connecting these belts just because it's a pain. These straight sections I just do through blueprint. And so what you have here is all those plates coming back to fill that warehouse back up. And it'll just keep going and until the request is fulfilled, really. Now the reason why I linked these belts is basically just to read the belt contents. And so let's go to this warehouse. This request of, what's so nice, 300 copper plates for example. It will count the number of items on the belt currently, and the request has that number subtracted. So if there are 1,000 copper plates en route to this warehouse on this belt, it won't request unless it wants more than 100. It will just it won't overfill by much. There is some slight overfilling just from stack inserters picking up too many, but it's no big deal. You ended up with like 20-30 more than you expect, so pretty damn close. And so the plates are still going, just because my production's not really meant for extreme throughput. It's just handling the number of items, so everything's relatively slow. Now I'll explain why my general layout is this grid structure, but to prevent items and requests from going around in loops and stacking up and messing it up, I have these single directional sections. And before I take the signal, so here's the two directional bit, the main request network I guess you would call it. That signal is filtered here, and so this one will only, looks like it's only going to do those ingots. So only an ingot signal will pass through, and as you can see, 600 copper, 200 gold, and that'll propagate upwards. And you can see all the little ingots being pulled off, and then finally it goes back to a two-directional system, and I do another filter basically to prevent, basically subtracts those. It won't send out those ingot signals. It basically, ingot signal comes in and then gets stopped before it can loop around, and that's how I get around that. So this section does the same sort of thing. It's only filtering signals for all the different ores I'm producing here. And so the ores are coming out here. Uranium's constantly being leached. And then when it connects back to the two-directional one, it in this case it's doing another filter to only filter on, only allow signals for sorting basically. And here I have a very small example of a single directional logistics conveyor belt. Pretty small, pretty simple. Bob's adjustable inserters work really nicely for this, so I can get some pretty full up belts using this. It's a bit hacky, but I like you can get it down to a small size. Now I do this trick quite often. I have a belt, so I have a chest, has items, I have a filter inserter that drops it into a chest and then out on a loader. So that's my way of basically doing a circuit controlled loader, except it has to go through another stack inserter and a belt. So the bonus, the stack inserter bonus will just, it'll fill up this belt 100%. But items aren't coming in enough to satisfy or to fill up this belt. It's just trickling in. Now uranium, this one has taken a really long journey because I was lazy. So here you can see the 4 sorting facilities doing uranium. Now I know uranium is being requested and the signal is propagated on this green wire, into these inserters, and these inserters are only active if uranium is greater than 0. There is a request for uranium, and it just drops some materials in. Since that was the switch, I guess you would say, we don't need to do any other magic. We just dump the uranium, goes along on the belts into the one directional logistics system, and that will just trickle out like it's raining down here. Hey, it stopped. 2 directional. Now this is a long journey of uranium. It keeps going. Let's go walking actually. Where was I? I was up here. Uranium keeps going through this node. More uranium. This one keeps going right. As you can see, a little bit of copper wire coils. Keeps going, and then it can finally go downwards. Yeah, there's a little 3-lane to 2-lane thing. So my old system just had 2 lanes, my old connection. It's cheaper earlier on. Into here, and it's going to the left. It's a very slow belt. I haven't upgraded this one. Got some more ores here. What is this? Silver ore. And uranium just keeps going. There must be hundreds of uranium just en route to this ridiculously far warehouse. Where is it going? Keeps going, keeps going. Do I have uranium? Yeah, copper sheet. Where are you going? Yep, keeps going. And back up here. Keeps going. Finally I think it's the one little bit extra into here. And finally the uranium reaches its destination. And so that was a really long. If trains did this, people would not be happy. I just tacked it on because I didn't want to add some configuration to allow uranium to go through here. And there's no real problem with throughput. There's no I'm not limited to what's in this belt at the moment, so it's fine to just have it trickling constantly. So that's taking a long path down here, but that demonstrates how the request signal just propagates outwards. Now because that is such a huge distance, I have had to increase uranium, not on that one, but on this one here. So this one should buffer 4,000, yeah. To get over that lag time, I've had to increase this. So if I would have reduced this to 300, let's watch what happens at the source. It's no longer feeding into the uranium sorting. So that stopped, and there's just so much uranium on the belt that it's just stopped production. So I can tell what's on the belts by this one combinator. Let's go to this one here. So this combinator here subtracts what's on the belt and sums it with the request signal, or negates the request signal. Go back to uranium a little bit, but basically there's too much lag, so I have had to increase to compensate for that. If I kick that off to 3,000, that should start production up again, and that requires more of these little angels refining bits, and production is just chained onwards. And so that's my system. I was going to add some train loading of ammunition here, but I didn't get around to doing it. That's my base. Thanks for watching.